The UK is not the place to be right now. All you have to do is look at the emigration stats, the net migration out of the UK, especially some of the wealthier people, to realise that rich, successful people are not sticking around in the UK. I've not been shy on my criticisms of the UK on this channel, and while I do think I'll end up settling down as a family there, I think as a point in my life as a young entrepreneur, there is no reason why I'd be in the UK. In fact, it's even got to the point where I'm dreading spending 5 days there between now and when I jet off to Bali in early January. And you might see all over the news all the criticism that the UK is getting about the economy being awful, about immigration problems, but I'm going to say exactly why I believe as a 24-year-old entrepreneur that the UK is not the place to be, and why I believe everyone right now that I think and look up to is leaving. This is going to be my biggest rant, so I apologize about what I say in advance, but I'm going to say things from the heart about what I really think about life in the UK as an entrepreneur and as a young person. I hope my citizenship doesn't get revoked, but right now I think there's some serious problems that need to be fixed in the UK before people like myself and other aspirational people think the UK is a good place to be. And a quick bit of background before I get into the video. My name's Sol. I'm an ex-strategy consultant who's now an entrepreneur, helping people build their social medias as well as building their online businesses and escape the rat race. And I make videos about how to do just that, as well as more lifestyle, careers, and happiness content. Drop me a subscribe if that sounds interesting, and without further ado, let's get into this rant. And the first reason why I believe the UK is washed is I believe there is an inbuilt culture against success. And this comes from the idea that in the UK there is a scarcity mindset. And I actually looked into this, and it turns out that our scarcity mindset, i.e. the idea that if you're doing well, I must be doing badly because you've taken my resources, comes from the fact that we're a small island and we do compete for resources, or we did compete for resources, and this culture has remained within the UK through years and years. This scarcity mindset has led to something called tall poppy syndrome. And tall poppy syndrome is basically the idea when someone achieves a level of success, then all of a sudden all the other people around them, the poppies if you will, look at them and start trying to bring them down. And this is so true in the UK. Just look at when a celebrity starts doing well. It is a matter of time before the English press start tearing them down. And I've seen this on a micro level in my surroundings. As soon as some of my friends have started doing well, immediately people make excuses because they must have cheated their way there, they must be privileged. There's always a reason. And I look at an example of someone like Grace Beverley, someone who's done exceptionally well as a young person. And I've been in so many conversations with people where people have just said, oh, well, she was really privileged. Oh, well, she went to Oxford. Of course she did that. And you can see that she is incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking, and incredibly driven to get where she wants. But all of a sudden in the UK, it must be some reason other than the fact that she's done hard work to get where she wants. This culture against success, this inbuilt culture against success that comes from scarcity, means that it's just not the place to be to actually achieve success. Because why would you want to be in an environment that as soon as you do better than the rest, you're going to be teared down and abused and told that you're lucky? And I feel very passionately that the negativity in UK culture just makes the environment such a horrid place to start your own business, and also such a toxic environment to just enjoy yourself in. I already feel my mood and my aspirations skyrocket in somewhere like Dubai, and then I know tomorrow when I go back to the UK, I'm going to be immediately met with negativity, abuse, and skepticism about what I've done. Okay, so that's my first reason why I believe people in the UK. But the second reason is interesting, and it's a theory that I've developed. And I think people are leaving the UK in floods because of something called the middle class unhappiness trap. And I created this term off the back of something called the region beta paradox. And the region beta paradox basically says that if you were to define your happiness between 0 and 10, then a lot of people exist in the region called the region beta. And the region beta is basically the area where it isn't bad enough, it's not a 5 or a 4, where people feel they need to change their life, but it's not a 9 or a 10, where people feel like they should be happy. So it's somewhere between a 6 and a 7. And I believe the majority of the people in the UK are stuck in this 6-7 region beta. Their life isn't quite bad enough, like at a 5 and a 4, where they really feel like they need to do something about it, but it's not at a 9 and a 10. They just accept being a 6 and a 7. And for me, this was such a tangible example of when I started my corporate job. It was well paying, it gave me good status, but at the same time, it didn't fulfill me, I didn't feel free, and I wasn't supporting other things in my life, like social connections and exercise. But because I had a few things that made it okay, I was at that 6 or 7, I could have not done something about it. And it wasn't until I realized about this theory of region beta that I realized I could just spend my whole life plodding along at a 6 and a 7. Thank God I realized that, but I believe that fundamentally most of the UK are stuck plodding along in that 6 or 7, and they'll just get to 60 and realize they've not not seize life enough. Being in other countries like Dubai, people say that it's like a mini GTA. But what I translate that in my head to is people are living life here like it's a video game. And instead, there's people in the UK who think that this is real life where you can't actually love every second of your day. That is bollocks. Why can't you love every second of your day? And in the UK, the people who do love every second of their day are fundamentally looked down on, called scammers, called bullshitters on the internet. And that is what is so frustrating to me as someone who's trying to achieve that video game GTA life. Because why not? You're even encouraged in school to go into the middle class unhappiness trap because schools encourage you to go to universities and universities encourage you to get safe and stable jobs. And those jobs trap you in with golden handcuffs where you go up and up and up the promotion cycle until you're a partner at 40, you retire, and all of a sudden you realize you've missed the 20 best years of your life. UK culture promotes this middle class unhappiness trap, and anyone who doesn't want to live the middle class unhappiness trap is immediately looked down on. And that is the second reason why I fundamentally don't want to be in the UK right now, because I never want to be in a position where I say I enjoy my life at a scale of 6 or 7 out of 10. How fucking miserable. Okay, so the third reason why I believe the UK is not the place to be is the weather. And you might say, okay, this is pretty annoying to say because like the UK can't change its weather, but that also means that I can't change the UK's weather. And I've noticed a few things about what weather does to people and how that actually creates an environment to live in. And the first thing about the weather is it bleeds into people's attitudes. It is literally grim for 8 months of the year in the UK, and that really affects people's happiness. And I saw this directly because I was going around the street doing street interviews, and I started in August in London, and I did it all the way to December. And the attitude of people in August was, oh yeah, happy to have a chat, really bright and bubbly and friendly. And then you got to December, and people were miserable. People just didn't want to speak to you, headphones in, just really, really passive aggressive. And this bleeds into everyday culture and everyday UK life. And to me, that is just not a fun environment to be in. I want to be around people who are happy and excited for life, not people who stick their headphones in and genuinely look like they hate every second of what they're doing. And you tell me, if you go and look on the tube and you study people's faces, do you really think they're enjoying their life? Or do you think they're absolutely hating the idea of going into the miserable cold when they get off the tube and working in their middle class job that they kind of hate? And again, this is not UK culture fault like maybe the other two, but why do I want to live in a country where I hardly ever have good weather? And right now in Dubai, I can walk outside, it's 30 degrees, I can walk around in a t-shirt and shorts, and I just feel comfortable walking around. And this actually plays into my fourth point, which is I believe the UK has a massive health problem. I first realized this when I was traveling, and everyone just said, oh, the UK guys, they just love drinking. They're obsessed with drinking. They're all alcoholics. But when I was traveling, I thought this was pretty funny because I kind of was one of those people. I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a great drinker. And then when I started to grow up, I started realizing how bad alcohol actually is for you. And then I started realizing that actually alcohol and poor health is inbuilt into UK culture. I came back from my travels in Cape Town, in Bali, in Dubai, and you're not gonna like hearing this, but it was genuinely an eyesore walking around London because I realized how out of shape and unhealthy people in London are compared to people in the rest of the world. You might put it down to great genes, but actually what it comes down to the fact is that other countries, like your Scandinavians, like your Cape Towns, like your people in Bali and Australia, they get out, they exercise, they eat healthy food, and they don't drink as much as we do in the UK. And the reason that I said this links to the last point is the sun definitely helps that because it's much easier to get out and exercise when the sun is good. But at the same time, the inbuilt pub culture in the UK really holds the health back because there isn't much to do on a weekend in the winter other than get smashed with your mates in a pub. Whereas this morning I was in Dubai running at the beach and I was genuinely having to dodge runners left, right and center because of how many people were out at 6 a.m. exercising. It's super motivational to be around that. It's super motivational to be around those people. I feel better. I've looked better in the last month from moving here. And in the UK, I'll just get back into bad habits of sitting inside, having pints with my friends, snacking and feeling miserable. My life has changed trajectory having left the UK and picked up healthy habits. I now don't get ill as opposed to in the UK, I'm just always carrying some sort of cold. And I really feel this health problem is inbuilt into the UK and causes a serious amount of problems. And I just don't want to be part of it. I want to live a long and healthy life. And I know that if I'm in another country, I'm much more likely to be able to do that. Okay, so that was point number 4. And I can't even remember if I said I was going to do 4 or 5 points, but here's a 5th point. Tax. Now, I don't have a problem with tax in the sense that I believe that if you pay a healthy level of tax, it means you're redistributing wealth around the country. If you look at the Scandinavians, they pay a massively high level of tax, but all of them are very happy to do it because what it does, it supports young people getting education. It means there's a massively lack of homeless and drug use compared to other countries, and it's a genuinely happier country because they have a massive safety net. So I don't have a problem with paying high amounts of tax if I felt like it was going to the right place. However, I do have a problem with paying tax in the UK, and that is for one reason, is because I don't understand where our tax money goes. Not only is the NHS massively struggling. The crime and the safety issues in London are so bad. And they are the two things that I feel like my tax are going towards, the healthcare and safety. And neither of them I feel like are working properly. And I've been asking entrepreneurs out here how much they pay roughly in tax when they're in the UK. And they said you might as well account for the fact you're paying 50% of your income to the UK tax man. 50% of your work goes to someone else, and you don't even really see the benefits of what happens with that other person. It makes me angry to even speak about, because I just saw my hard work when I was in consulting getting chipped and chipped away by a massively high tax rate, and I just couldn't work out what it was going towards. In here in Dubai, you get 100% of what you earn, and the material difference that is, if you're earning 100k, it's 50k that you get to keep extra. I'm not about using that to buy Lamborghinis. I want to invest that in my business, and that comes on to my kind of second point around tax, is that when you're starting a business, paying such aggressively high tax rates is just limiting your growth as a company. For example, I've met an entrepreneur out here in Dubai, and since saving that 50% that he would have paid for tax in the UK, he's managed to hire someone to manage his community, someone else to do his sales, someone to do his marketing, and also someone to create leads for him. He said that has exponentially increased the growth of his company. And in the UK, that money would have just gone straight to the tax man and to some unknown public benefit, which none of us can see. As an entrepreneur, I want my business to survive. And if I can use the money that I'm not paying to tax to reinvest into my business, to get it to grow quicker and also make it more likely to survive, then it would be an absolutely no-brainer for me not to do that. And the UK is just stifling entrepreneurs by also taxing it at such a heavy rate. So not only am I frustrated by not really knowing where my tax goes, but I also want to reinvest my money into my business, which net effect is actually going to benefit the UK. So it is so frustrating to me, and it's something that really grinds my gears about how big the tax rate is in the UK. Anyway, that is my rant about the UK. If you made it to this part of the video, then I also made a video here about exactly why I left the UK a month ago, and why if you're an entrepreneur in your early 20s, then I would recommend leaving the UK for certain reasons.